Drew Allar, Penn State's cannon-armed quarterback with first-round potential, or another low-ceiling QB bust? Our film study reveals the truth.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. We're keeping this single-player eval theme going as we get closer and closer to kickoff to week 0. Guys, it is officially week 0 of college football. Keith, college football kicks off this Saturday. Feels like it's been a long time coming since we've seen college players take the field. And guys, we're talking about Drew Allar, man, the big arm, big body quarterback out of Penn State. We're going to talk about his strengths, his concerns, and explain the grade. And I might have a surprising comp for you guys that I've stumbled upon this summer. So let's get it started with what is so appealing about Drew Allar? It's the prototype. It's the prototypical stuff, Keith. He's listed at 6'5". He's 240 pounds. He's got a big arm. Like all the cliches, can make every throw in the book. He can drive it. He has arm strength and talent. And I'll say this from a positive standpoint, what I do like about him. When his base is strong and he's aligned to throw, not only can he rip it, he's accurate. And when his mechanics are sound, he can put the ball where it needs to be. Mm-hmm. And you see the flashes of that with him. I think this past season we saw a guy that played well. He didn't put the ball into harm's way too much, when you compare it to some of the other guys, but I think for him, it's just a fact of staying clean with his mechanics. If he stays clean with his mechanics, he can absolutely be an accurate quarterback. I like the touch that he displays, being able to layer throws and not just because he's a little different than a Nico Iamaleava, right? Than a Anthony Richardson when he came out. Anthony Richardson was super raw. It was a lot of fastballs, right? That's really what it was. It was what you got for me, big fella? This 100-mile-per-hour heat seeker. That's what I got for you. You got anything else? It was I haven't really worked on that much. So no, I don't have anything else, and I think that's the thing for me when it comes down to with Drew Allar is I appreciate his ability to throw the changeup, the slider, and have touch on throws. And I think again, the size, and I'll say this, I know he's not a if you ask me what's his 40 time, I say 4.9. You know what I mean? He's not something.
100%. He might pull out a 4.85 or something.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe get you 4.85. But I do I think it was the Ohio State game I watched, and he was coming off because they played. Was it Illinois? No, I can't remember who they played the week before. But he played only the first half. He got hurt right, I think, leading into halftime. It was a knee injury. So he came into the Ohio State game with a bulky brace on his knee. And he was still scrambling for first down. So he could still scramble, straight line, get you the first, get you the 3rd and 5s and different stuff like that and move the chains. He's just not going to give you anything wow from a running standpoint. Don't expect 20, 30-yard runs from Drew Allar.
No, that's not what's happening. And they played Wisconsin DP before they played Ohio
That's
State,
right. That's right.
This past
That's
year.
right.
When I look at it, we talk about the strengths, right? And I've just finished writing my report for Drew Allar, and that was the word prototype. Prototype size, prototype build, right? Prototype arm strength, and being able to push the ball vertical. When you talk about these big, strong quarterbacks, he has it all. He checks all the boxes when it comes to that part of it. Another part that I wanted to hit on, DP, there's always a threshold and a barometer for teams, right, with playing experience. This is going to be a guy who enters the NFL barring no injury, right? This upcoming season, he's going to enter as a 3-year starter, having played in playoff games. And if everybody believes Penn State is who they are, they'll make a deep playoff run this year. So the playing experience is going to be very important for him too. And I think for me, that's a big part. I think, for quarterbacks, because
For sure.
we've seen time and time again these quarterbacks with low play experience, the Trey Lances, the Zach Wilsons. Seems like a lot of guys in that one class. But with the little playing experience and just some of the things not translating, right? And the NFL usually doesn't give you time before they call you a bust and ask for the backup. So usually you want quarterbacks to have enough play experience to experience enough different situations, because situational football is huge in the NFL. I like Drew Allar. There are times when you see him completing passes to Tyler Warren last year, to where you talked about being able to put arc on the football and throw it in between two defenders. And he was able to do that beautifully. He's a guy that I look at when you talk about strengths, prime candidate to come off a hard play action and throw that thing, right? Like that's what I see with him. Like a guy that could give
that shot play.
Yeah, and take a shot down the field. And he's a strong guy in the pocket. When you're talking about just a quarterback that has a presence overall. And we looked at and maybe it's not so much now because a lot of guys have the athletic build, right? A lot of guys are athletic, period. And quarterbacks are, they come in various different heights and sizes. But just when it was the Ben Roethlisbergers and the Phillip Rivers, right? Those guys that were 6'5", 230, right? That was the threshold. The Eli Manning, right? It's another 6'5" quarterback. So Drew, the upside is this, that you could potentially be drafting a guy that could stand in the pocket at 6'5" and throw darts all over the field. And I think that's what the upside for Drew. And the thing is that he's done it before. So it's like, how do we just get him to do it on a more consistent basis?
Yeah, and I want to throw out some numbers to back your point about the play action. Last year, 26% of his dropbacks were play action passes. He completed 60% of his passes, threw for 762 yards, 7.5 yards per attempt, 8 touchdowns to 1 interception. So when you give him the play action, and not talking about the RPO stuff, guys, the play action, he had no turnover-worthy plays on play action. He had 5 turnover-worthy plays off no play action, like kind of the true drop back sets. So like you saw him kind of put the ball in harm's way a little bit in those type of situations. But when you give him, like it's crazy because the Browns are going to be such a interesting case study this season, because it's like, okay, when are we going to see Dylan Gabriel and Shador to know what y'all going to do with those 2 first-round picks? We just dropped a mock on Friday that we'll probably have to break down at some point. We just dropped a mock on Friday, Keith, where over at Bleach Report, where we did I think it was draft. We did one of the preseason Super Bowl odds, the reverse odds. It had the Browns. I think it had the Saints at 1. It had the Browns at 2. So it was like, well, and then the Browns also had who's the Jaguars pick. They had the Jaguars at pick at 10. So the Browns had 2 top 10 picks. And I'm like, okay, so this is where you get into a situation of what are we doing with our quarterbacks? Because if you finish with 2 top 10 picks, you got ample opportunity to take best player available.
Move number 1 up, yeah.
Right, and you know what I mean? Like you could take best player available at 2 if you got 2, and if you don't want to get the quarterback right there, or you can move from 10, package that with a pick and maybe a player, get up inside the top 5, you know what I mean? And probably another, first round pick for the following year, get somebody to move down to 10, and now you're still in range to get the quarterback you want or the next best player available, receiver, edge, whatever it is, right? So I think for me, man, it's just like that. He would be a great fit, in my opinion, that Kevin Stefanski offense. Like I think he's going to be a fit for it. The thing with him is going to be appealing for NFL teams. He just turned 21 this year, back in March. 6'5", 240, big arm, all the physical tools. He fits that West Coast type of scheme, though. You want to put him under the center, play action, naked boot, hit the flat route, he's that guy that you want to coach into that offense, and then as he masters it, everything else, his natural ability, starts to take shape. It starts to take form, and I think he gives you hopes of a potential franchise quarterback physically. Now we got to see what he can actually become. And Keith, the comp I had, I think you said it a little bit earlier. I'm gonna wait. I'll wait.
All right, let's go.
I'm gonna wait.
Hey, then we put the people on the cliffhanger.
Segment 3, guys.
We put the people on the cliffhanger, man. Let's keep this thing going and flowing. Coming up next, we are talking about Drew Allar's concerns. Yes, what are the parts of his game that are most concerning? We're gonna talk about that coming up next.
This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. This year, me and the Locked On NFL Draft podcast are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Guys, to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's only one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. But if you're into more of the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or even join a public league. But the key here is that you stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. We talked about the good, Keith, the things that the NFL teams are going to love, the scouts are going to love about Drew Allar. What are the things that are going to worry them? I'm going to tell you right now, and I think I said it multiple times in this pod, mechanics. Oh, man. That's where things can live or die, man. And no matter how accurate you are, if your mechanics are not right, you're going to be inaccurate. Like if your feet are not pointing to your target, all the cliches that the trainers will tell you, if you are not right mechanically, you are not going to throw the ball your best. And it was against Oregon. I'll go to a play against Oregon. I think it was in the third quarter. They had a tight end leak into a wheel route to the opposite side of formation from Tyler Warren. He ran it perfectly, split the two DBs or the two defenders, stacked him. He's wide open. And his footwork in terms of Drew Allar was so bad on this throw, he underthrew him by at least 5 yards. Mm-hmm. It was picked, but they ended up bailing them out with a DPI with the flag that put the ball inside the 10, things like that. And the thing I paid attention to, and I was watching his footwork, it was play action. He booted, and when he booted out, it was no defenders around him. There was nobody threatening him. All he had to do was have his feet set. He's toesy. His feet are narrow. He's not ready to throw. And your guy is scot-free wide open. Like, that's how you take 7 points off the board, because if they don't bail you out with that penalty, that's a turnover in the red zone. We can't have that. His feet were narrow. Then he has to come to a solid base, then step into the throw. And then I think he kind of faded away a little bit too. He's got a really bad habit. It's Jordan Love-esque in a sense. That fadeaway jumper, sometimes you just pull up with the midi. You just pull up. You don't need to fade away everything and think you're MJ and Kobe. You don't have to do that, man. So that was one of the biggest things with me. His upper body mechanics, I'm fine with. Shoulders are level. They're even. He's not a slanted thrower. But dear God, like his feet are what throws him completely off. Because it's either you're not lined up to throw to your target, or when you talking about going from, because he handles full field reads. When you're trying to go across the field to your next read, if your eyes are faster than your feet, he's heavy-footed. So, he is heavy-footed.
That's exactly what I was going to get to, is that, and I don't know how many people actually discuss this, but he needs to become a better athlete in the pocket. Meaning that I'm not talking about movement, but what you're talking about.
Should he drop weight? Should he drop to like 230, 225 and get some? I mean, it's not like he's a bad build guy, but he looks at 240.
Yeah, and possibly that. But you know what I thought about DP? He need to work the ladder drill. Like, he need to go out there and do some DB ladder drills, right? The running backs, the wide receivers, get with the skill positions and do the ladder drills, because that's exactly where I was going to fall, is that his foot mechanics are slow. And the problem is when pressure comes quickly, his foot mechanics don't match up with his arm, right? And so many times people talk about release and they just look at the upper body. But in order for you to make accurate throws, sometimes your feet have to be married with the throw. And that's when you start to see the erratic things. And then, like you said, when you do that, you add in pressure, right? You add in a known throwing down, and then you add in you having to do full field reads. You have to be a quick twitch athlete. And I think that's what everybody skipped in the process of even talking about Tom Brady, right? Where he was like, no, like, I'm not just trying to be big, heavy, and strong. I need to be quick. I need to be elastic, right? I need to be able to get in and out of things and be able to, get the whole thing married together suddenly. And I think that's the part with Drew Allar's game. I'll go to this part too. There are the pull your hair out right, kind of decisions, right? The way you just want,
Yep.
why did you do that? Like and then you almost, and I don't know if you did the same thing, but when I was watching them, even when it was interceptions, like I would rewind it and be like, I still don't get what you seen, right? Then you rewind it again and be like, I don't get it.
I still don't see what you saw.
I don't get it. So yeah, I look at that. I think for him, it's mechanics and his decision making. And we obviously know how their season ended last year. You always correct me on this. I always get this wrong. Their season ended with Notre Dame. I always
They
say
beat
Boise.
SMU and then they beat Boise.
Okay, yeah, and he threw the interception, going in, and when he didn't have to throw the interception, I think he gave the game to Notre Dame at that moment instead of you could have ran the clock out, right, and went to overtime or something like that, if I'm remembering correctly. So for Drew, it's going to be decision making, man, and if you can get him to become a better athlete, because then he becomes one of those quarterbacks, DP. If everything remains the same, and this is when we'll get into the grades part in the next segment, he becomes one of those quarterbacks that has to go into a great situation, meaning that because if pressure is going to consistently make you make bad decisions or inaccurate throws, you can't play behind a bad offensive line. And then if you put that to it, most of the teams at the top of the draft have bad offensive lines. So you kind of run into
not good situations.
Yeah, not good situation. So you kind of run into that. So Drew, for as much as we said, we talked about the strengths in the first segment, right? The concerns, this is what I struggle with, is that they almost neutralize the strengths too, right? And it makes you, like they, you know what I'm saying? Like for how high the ceiling is how low the floor is. And then it's like, okay, then what does that average out to as a prospect?
No, 100%. And I think that it's just a simple fact of like you said, to be into some of these offenses in the NFL, and like you said, full field read, when you combine everything, and if your eyes are faster than your feet, you're never going to be fully aligned to get the ball out. And that's what happens. And then he's also, because to the decision making, he has what I call arm arrogance, because he knows I could be late. You know what I mean? Like, because Cam Ward was like that. Cam Ward didn't anticipate throws like that at Miami. And I think he even admitted to that. He was like, it was almost purposeful. Like, he would wait till guys break and then rip it. And it was like, well, you do have the arm to do that. But in the NFL, if you watch the first preseason game, you start seeing Cam off their second drive. He's out there anticipating throws to Calvin Ridley and the outbreaking and stuff like that. Same thing with
and stuff like that.
Yeah, the crosser to Van Jefferson that should have been caught against Atlanta. He anticipated that throw and ripped it. But he's aligned. Like, Drew, you are not aligned and you're late, and you still feel like I can still fire this in. And it's like, but also it's even with arm talent, arm strength, your strength comes from your base as well. So if your base is not where it needs to be, you can't fully optimize your arm. So either way, you're fighting against yourself to make this throw, because your feet are pointed left, you're facing back to the third read on the right, and you're trying to throw it. And it was like, this does not breed good results. Like, you're not going to get a positive result out of this. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that's the perfect way to put it. His strengths, his concerns can neutralize his strengths, because of the fact that you got it. Like, he's one of those quarterbacks. You talk about the ladder drill, like you seen the drill the QB coaches put them through. They got to drop back and they have to move on command. He's got to do that. It's like red light, green light. Yeah, you got to do that quickly, bro, and you got to do that constantly, because if you can't be aligned to throw, if it's the first read, yeah, he's gonna hit it. But what happens when you got to go to read 2? And read
and I'll say this,
work back cross field.
Yeah, and something has to give, right? Either his footwork has to get better to be in sync, or he has to become more accurate as a pure arm thrower. And we see quarterbacks like that. Cam Ward is like that. Patrick Mahomes is like that. Some of these guys don't need the base, but they have arm talent enough, right? And I think Drew isn't quite at that level yet, and maybe he could develop that part, right, to where his base doesn't have to be perfect and he can still rip some things. I think that's what you was talking about with Jordan Love, right? Like, he can kind of fade away, and you look at him and be like, that's not the right thing to do, but he's still putting it accurate. So I think you just reach the threshold where for Drew is like, something got to give, right? Like, you have to figure out one of those things to be able to overcome these two deficiencies in your game to be able to become an effective quarterback. But DP, let's do this, man. This is my favorite part when we do these draft prospect profiles. Explain the grade and what are the 2025 expectations. I'm going to talk about that coming up next.
Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with family or friends? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize, you know what? I should be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantees that takes the worry out of buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. It's time to explain the grade. The grade I have for Drew Allar, quarterback out of Penn State, 6'5", 240 pounds, all the arm talent in the world, Keith. At Bleacher Report, a grade of an 8 flat is back into the first round, fringe second round, and that's where I have him. I think because the tools, the upside, that type of stuff, I think you talked about earlier, like in the first topic, right? The fact he's going to be when he finishes, as long as he stays healthy, 3-year starter, right?
At Penn State, big time moment.
State. One school, he didn't transfer around, stuff like that. I give him a back into the first round. Somebody will still feel like, you know what? I can get the best out of him. And if you got the right plan, sure, you could, right? Like he's a coachable kid, all that type of stuff. But he's got to work on the things we talked about. He's got to fix some of the decision making, get quicker in the pocket. Like, just you want to see the pocket mobility and movement improve. Those type of things, like when you're dealing with the outside rusher, can you slide, reset, and throw when you step up in the pocket consistently? That's what you need to do in the NFL. Like, you have to do those things, and you're not going to be able to arm muscle every single throw. And I think one of the thing that I forgot to mention when we talk about the concerns, I want to see him clean up, is learning when and when not to use touch. He's still struggling with that. Most big arm quarterbacks don't have touch. They just know how to throw the fastball. He has the other pitches. He just don't know when to use them at times. So it's like, yeah, don't throw the fastball if you're on the pitcher mound and Barry Bonds is up there. Let's give him a slider. Let's give him something that's going to make him swing a little early. Know when to use your pitches. And I think that's one of the big things with him. Again, the tools, the upside is there. The functionality as an athlete, straight line is there. But he's got some stuff he's got to clean up. That's why I say he's under a lot of pressure this year because you got receivers now. Offensive line is good. Both of your starting running backs came back. Your defense is going to be able to do the good things for you and keep you in games. Now you have to go out here and raise the floor of this team to where, okay, we got a taste of the CFP last year. Let's go a little bit. We won 2 games. Like, you won 2 games. If they beat Notre Dame, they're in the national championship game.
Yep. What a rematch.
So that right there should have been that should make you hungry as an athlete to say, you know what? If I'm better against Notre Dame, we win that game. I want to see him take that next step mentally, everything, all of it. Because in these big time moments, if you can't come through, that moniker is going to follow you to the league. So that's my expectation for him is you got weapons. There's no excuse for that. Distribute it. Be a point guard. Distribute it correctly. And when we need you to make the big play, make the big play. But it's all about timeliness and the decision making that's going to make or break this season for Penn State. The team is too good. You're too talented. Put it all together finally. And at the end of the day, don't be Will Levis, because that's what you look like. You look like a guy that has all the tools in the world. Will Levis was a much better athlete, but it was the same thing. Heavy foot in the pocket, didn't move, faded, like just same problems. Don't be the same archetype. We see that did not work in the NFL.
Yep, I was going to go to DP. I'm glad you said it. I was gonna go there. I was gonna mention Will Levis as a part of that. Man, my grade, I gave him a pure second round grade, DP. In for multiple thresholds, right? Big time games, I need you to make big time plays. I think there some big time games he plays solid, and then some of them, let's just be completely honest, he doesn't play well at all. If he's playing West Virginia, he's gonna dice him up for 350 and 5 touchdowns, right? But you know the NFL is going; those rosters are going to look more like those teams, the Ohio States, the the big time opponents that you're going to play, the Notre Dames, things like that. So I gave him a second round grade. And what are my expectations for Drew Allar? Expectations versus what you need to do to be able to sustain this momentum. My expectations is probably more of the same. And I'm trying to see what he finished with last year statistically. 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, right? If I had to guess, I would probably go 27-10, somewhere around there, right? Which are pretty solid numbers. I think for him is going to be how does he play in the big time moments to get teams to buy in, right? And I had the touchdowns going up and I have the interceptions going up a couple because I think they're going to have to put more on his back for Penn State to actually turn the corner. And we talked about this with Will Howard, right? We know they have the 2 running backs, Travion Henderson and our guy Quinshawn Judkins, but they asked Will Howard to make big time plays and big time moments, when he had to, and he stepped up to the plate. So I think the same is going to be for Drew. So I gave him a pure second round grade just because to me he falls in that Will Levis bucket. But then I also think about some of those pocket passes in the past that have been, hey, how are you able to overcome some of your, like maybe processing and mechanic stuff, right? And that's why we see these dual threat guys, they can get away with, okay, the speed is moving too fast. One thing I'm still a 4-4 athlete. Let me run out the pocket, right? So with Drew, he doesn't have that in his back pocket. And what I don't want to do is with quarterbacks, I didn't like it when it was so far left to where like you only could be a pocket passer to survive and dual threat quarterbacks.
Right.
I don't want to go so far right to where I'm like, man, you got to run a 4-5 to play quarterback. Neither one of those are true, right? The quarterbacks, I hope at this point we understand they come in all shapes and sizes and different type of athletic profiles. But with Drew, he has to find his go-to thing, right? And for me, and this is partly why I gave him a second round grade, I think he's a B across the board. When you look at him, you say, you know what? This is a B across the board, solid quarterback in college. Let's see if we could develop him. What I don't want him to fall into the bucket of is the Josh Freemans, the Tanner McKees, right? The Mike Glennons, those type of guys that were 6'5", big arms, but they didn't have anything to go to, whether it was their mental processing, the quick mechanics, the pocket presence, being able to manipulate the pocket, just different things like that to be able to evade pressure, get the ball out with extreme arm talent to be successful. Like, because I think his ceiling, if you look at it, his ceiling would be an Eli Manning, right? Like a guy that can come in when teams that have good defenses, right? In a run game, he can manage the offense, make throws when needed to be, and hopefully you can get a Super Bowl out of him. Or maybe a Joe Flacco-esque type quarterback, right? Where you never put all of it on him, but he's your quarterback for 15 years, good quarterback, can manage the football, good defense, you walk away with a Super Bowl. So I put him somewhere that you hope that he can kind of reach that.
Yeah, I think that when you brought up Tanner McKee, like shout out to the Eagles for developing him and watching him grow over there. But it's like, well, how would they have looked if he had to start right away? Yeah. He was a top 10 pick, and you don't get a chance to sit and learn, And I think that's a comparable situation in terms of the physical ability. Like Tanner had 6'5", 6'6", somewhere in there, big rocket arm. He wasn't, very mobile, but he could do a little bit. Similar to Drew Allar. And I think for my comp for Drew was Big Ben. Like just heavy-footed, guy that can win within the pocket. But the difference was the mental makeup of Ben. Ben was a dog. And that was back when you could rock quarterbacks. You know what I mean? In the AFC North. Like, yeah, they get a clean shot on you. Yeah, they're taking it. And they're not getting flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct. You hit the quarterback too hard. No, you could rock quarterbacks back then. And it wasn't the beauty pageant for the QBs. Big Ben was strong and physical in the pocket, shrugging off 300-pound defensive linemen, still making throws. I go to that throw, and I tweeted it out. In the Big Ten championship game against Oregon, Mateo Uiagalelei beats Nolan Ritchie, his right tackle, clean and quick, gets around the edge, bends, and reaches back to Drew Allar, grabs his undershirt, and is trying to scorpion him off of Mortal Kombat, trying to tell him to come here. and he's like pulling them, and Drew's leaning back and then sidearms a rocket to the end zone for a touchdown. I'm like, every time you try to be out, these type of plays to pull you back in. You know what I'm saying? It's those type of plays where you're just like, man, if we could just, I'm telling you, some scout, some GM would be like, I like that. And this guy like, listen, he's inconsistent though. We got to have a plan, but I like that throw. Like he's got the stuff that you can't coach, which is true. So yeah, he's got the big Ben thing is my comp for him. Ben could get straight line. He wasn't really that nimble. Like he wasn't like explosive. He was nimble footed in the pocket, but he was still heavy footed at the same time. I think I see the same thing with Drew Allen. I want him to lean into, if you're not gonna drop the weight, just lean into being the big physical quarterback then. You know what I mean? Like lean into that play style, shrug guys off, stiff arm a guy, and rip a throw, right? If you're not gonna get better in terms of your footwork and quickness in the pocket. He's got a lot of stuff he's got to clean up. But man, he's a really talented young man, really talented player, and there's a lot on his shoulders this year because you can't play like 24 touchdowns is cool. Like I think Cam threw 39 last year, led FBS.
Yeah, so you got to split the difference. You got to get the 30.
Yeah, give me 32. You know what I mean? Give me 32, 34, somewhere in there, and I'm good. You know what I mean? Especially, Michigan's got a true freshman quarterback that's going to be starting this year and everything. Ohio State's got one of those 5 stars who've never played, haven't started games.
Yeah, Penn State this year, yeah.
Like you got all the opportunity. Oregon starting a new quarterback, Dante Moore, you know what I mean, who hasn't played in 2 years. He hasn't played since he was at UCLA. There's no excuse that y'all shouldn't put pressure and really threaten everyone in the Big Ten. And it starts with you. Everything else around you is good now. Go out here and play well. Because if you don't, there's no excuse for your performance.
There we go. That wraps up the draft prospect profile for Drew Allen. DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about, guys, it's week 0, right? We got to get into it. Who are our Heisman favorites? Tier 2, and then those sleepers for the 2025 Heisman Award for the college football season that are tied to the 2026 NFL Draft. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.